Hey everyone. So today I wanted to talk to you about some alternatives to the grid view fix extension that you've probably grown very used to. So basically this image here on the right that looks like a grid, you might recognize it as having been in your Google Meet kind of up over here next to your People tab. And this actually was not something that was created by Google. This was something that a separate person created and it was an add-on to Google Meet, but it recently stopped working and it does not appear as though it is going to be fixed. And I know this can be really disappointing because there were some great features within that tool that we've gotten used to. But since that is gone and since as of right now there are not any viable alternatives, what I wanted to do was I wanted to show you guys just a couple of options native to Google Meet that might work for you. And I will say in this video, I will talk about 4 separate things. I will have that linked also down in the description of this video so you can jump ahead to certain areas if you want. But first of all, what I will mention is that one of the reasons that we had that grid view is because it made it so you can see all of your students at once. Now, when you go into Google Meet and you go into these settings over here, you can see that there's this option here that says change layout. And at the bottom here, there is kind of this slider bar. So for some reason, Google Meet is naturally limited to 9 people or 16 people, but you can slide this up to a higher number so that it will show your entire class. This hopefully will stick to your Google Meet, but if you go into one of your classes and you are not seeing all of your students, you can always go back into that slider bar and adjust it to have a higher number of tiles so you can see all of your students here. The other thing is that within Google Meet, you might have become accustomed to having your students alphabetical here, and you might notice here that my students are not alphabetical. And I know that this can be really frustrating because it's almost like a seating chart and we know where to look for certain kids, but Google Meet does not currently have that functionality native to it. If you are looking for an alphabetical list of your students for the purposes of attendance, let's say, you can go into the People tab here, and naturally this list on the right-hand side here will be alphabetical. So if you did want to go in and see a list of your students alphabetized, you can always go into that People tab, and you can see it's alphabetized here. And just while I'm here, there is also a new Mute All button that you might want to check out this week. The other thing with this is that some people are used to having themselves in the grid. I know me personally, I like this because I can make sure that I'm actually in the view. And basically, if you hover over your video in the top here, you can see this option that says show in a tile. And you can put this in and you can make it so that you show up as a tile in your own Google Meet. So that is something that you can also do within Google Meet without the grid view extension. And the last thing that I will mention here, I'm actually going to split my screen before I do it. So I know a lot of people have grown accustomed to using Dual List to split your screen. No worries, Dual List still works and hopefully will continue working. But here I have split my screen, and one of the things that you might notice this week when you go to present your screen is if you go to present and you present a tab and you choose your tab that you typically do, or even if you choose a window or choose your entire screen, when you go into present here, you are now going to have this gigantic box that says you are presenting to everyone. And this is something that that grid view used to eliminate for us. Now, within this, there are no great options to make it go away entirely. There's no option to make it show your presentation. But what you can do is you can actually zoom out on the web page here. So I'm going to go into the 3 dots up top here, and I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and you can see when I zoomed out that first time it added one more student for me, because when we present this way sometimes not all of our students show up. I can zoom out a little bit more here, and you can also do this by clicking Control- on your keyboard, and this will make it so at least that presenting box is a little bit smaller, and it will give you the ability to then see all of your students. The thing I will mention is that that does make the chat a little bit smaller, so it is something to just keep in mind as you play with the zoom. But basically here, you can make that your presenting box smaller by going in and zooming out or zooming back in when you don't need it anymore. And that is an option that you can do within the zoom here, and you can also do on your keyboard with Control- or with Control+ to zoom back in. And I'll just mention briefly, Control-0 actually resets the entire page if you just want to bring it back up to 100. So I know that this is not the perfect alternative when you've become so accustomed to grid view fix, but unfortunately right now this is the only option that we have since grid view is no longer being updated, and Google Meet has some cool updates coming out, but some of these things don't appear to be on their radar yet. The thing that I will mention here is basically when you go into these three dots, if there's anything here that you really feel like you're missing, something that it's really going to bother you not to have that alphabetical list, or it's going to be really challenging to have that you are presenting to everyone's screen. This is something that you can always go in to these three dots and you can go in and say report a problem. And basically within here, you can give Google Meet feedback that says, I really need my students to be alphabetical, or I really need that you are presenting to everyone's screen to be smaller. Because the thing is Google will quantify fixes that they make based on the number of people that request that feature, or based on the number of people that report that issue. So this is something that you can go in and you can request these changes to be made by Google. But for right now, I at least wanted to provide you with these 4 alternatives to use that slider bar for a larger view, to use the People tab for the alphabetical list, to click that tiny tile in the right to show yourself in the grid, and to go in and zoom out so that you can still see students when there is that you are presenting to everyone box. So hopefully these fixes will help give us kind of a little band-aid patch in the meantime, but obviously I know you guys are going to adjust to this just like you've adjusted to everything else this year, but if you have any questions or want to talk about this directly or play around with settings together, please feel free to reach out. You guys know I'm only a call, text, or email away. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope to talk to you soon.